Welcome everyone to the City of Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting for September 3rd, 2024. We'll begin with a roll call of commissioners present. If you would just state your name, please. I'm Sue Scamboluri.
John West here.
Randy Cassidy present.
Lori McRobbie present.
Welcome, and a special welcome to Lori McRobbie. Great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. So, in addition, could we also have folks check in from the city?
You want to start?
Sure, Larry Allen, Legal Department.
Anna Hansen, hand.
Christina Finley, hand.
Jessica McClellan, Controller.
Jane Cooper-Smith, Economic and Sustainable Development.
Taylor Brown, Legislative Affairs Specialist.
Great. And is that everyone? I can't quite see all the way to the back of the room.
That's
I
everyone.
believe
Okay.
that's everyone.
Great. Let's move on to the reading of the minutes. Are there any comments or corrections? And if not, may I have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the meeting minutes for August 5th, 2024 be approved. Is there any further discussion or any comments from? All right. We need to do a roll call vote. I'm sorry. Let's begin with a roll call vote in the room there, if you would.
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Lori McRobbie, yes.
And C. Scamboluri, yes. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay. Moving on to the examination of claims registers for August 16th for $836,232.96. And for August 30th, 2024 for $1,267,173.99. Are there any questions or is there any discussion on the claims registers?
I did have a question which I sent in and Christina responded to it. Page 3, TIF 1960, landscape forms. That was from a resolution done in 2023 that I wasn't aware of. And I got a good explanation, so it's no longer a question for me.
Okay. Thank you, John. Any additional questions?
Yes.
Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, 13074 to Renaissance. Has the site inspection been completed and is this the final? And in regards to their payment, because where are we at in regards to it? It appears there's still a tank there.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm happy to get that answer for you, Commissioner, and to know whether this is the final payment that would be made and that everything's been cleared from the site.
Yeah, because the reason I'm asking is, and this may be a question for Deb at a later date, but has anyone done the site walkthrough and such to identify that?
I believe they have been on site walkthroughs, but I don't know if they've done the final site walkthrough is essentially.
I think Deb's online. She
Thank
might
you.
be able to respond.
Yeah. Commissioner, is this for Renaissance? Is this claim for Renaissance?
Yes,
Yeah.
the two.
So it is not, it's not their final, it is not 100% done yet. The only thing that is left is the coordination between some regrading that was happening associated with the First Street project. You know, the demolition work is complete.
Mm-hmm.
The tank removal that you're referring to, that's actually being focused on by the engineering team under Roy 10, but that's actually going through the brownfields grant to get that removed, and I think we're going to see some action on that soon, is what Roy told me about a week or so ago.
Okay, so that wasn't part of our demolition.
No, we did not do that through the demolition because we were able to use the brownfield grant that the city gets to remove that. So.
Okay, and then the final grading will be part of the retention that will occur, because, I mean, right now, quite
Right.
frankly, it appears to be a little bit on the dangerous side.
Yes, there is some grading that is being worked out, because Roy is also the project manager for the First Street project. And so they're working through some regrading issues on those two things together.
Okay, and what do we have a time frame on any of that? Just
We can follow back up with you and get you that time frame.
okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Any additional questions? If not, may I have a motion to approve the claims registers?
So moved.
Second. Oh, Lori, perfect.
It's been moved and seconded that the claims registers for August 16th, 2024 and August 30th, 2024 be approved. We'll move to a roll call vote.
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Lori McRobbie, yes.
And Sue Scambaluri, yes. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the examination of payroll registers. Are there any questions or comments on payroll registers?
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll registers as presented.
I think that was Randy.
Yes.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the payroll registers for August 9th and August 23rd, 2024 be approved. Let's move to a roll call vote. John, could you begin?
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Lori McRobbie, yes.
Sue Scambaluri, yes. Thank you, everyone. That takes care of claims registers and payroll registers. We'll move into reports from officers and committees, starting with the director's report. Anna.
I just wanted to inform you that we are going to be having our 9th and final consolidated plan outreach meeting this evening. I might have to actually skate out of here a few minutes early if we don't get done in time. But that will be our final outreach meeting for our consolidated plan. Other than that, happy to answer questions. Yes.
How's the attendance been?
It's been really good. We've had close to 200 people fill out the survey, and we've had a good gathering at each and every meeting. So we're getting some really great feedback from the community to address several issues.
How late's that survey open? Until what date?
I am not actually sure. I believe it will close the second week of September.
Okay, so there's still time.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Additional questions for Anna? If not, I'll jump into. Anna, is there anything else you could share about attendance at the meetings, groups that were represented? Anything else that you could share from those gatherings?
We've had a lot of participation, so I could not begin to name all of the organizations that have been present during those meetings. We've also had a really good public turnout, so just members of the public that came, particularly to our library meeting. We've had a number of stakeholders at each and every virtual session, so I'd be happy to summarize that, but that would be a really lengthy list at this point to tell you everybody that's come. We do have the sign up for when people come that we're happy to get to you as well. So.
Okay, thank you. I guess my corollary question to that, is there any, I know we have one meeting left, but is there any, are there any voices that have not been represented that concern you?
I would say that we have not heard from the Builders Association at all, which I would think that considering that some of this outreach was to be included in our housing plan. So that is slightly concerning. We did not have as many realtors as I thought would participate, though they could be filling out the anonymous survey as well. But other than that, we did eventually have the executive director from the Board of Realtors attend last week, so we did get some very good input from her. But yeah, out of 600 members of the BBOR, I was surprised we didn't have any additional input, and then the Builders Association did not have any representation.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional questions for Anna? Okay, let's move to legal. Larry?
No report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer's report, Jessica?
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening. What I have presented to you today is kind of our draft, working sheet of where we are with all the big TIF projects. We recently added about just over $500,000 to Hopewell from a couple meetings ago. We had a bunch of projects come up that were added to Hopewell. So the fund commitment has gone up. The remaining balance amount has gone up a little bit. That's about $500,000. We have not had, let's see, well, the next project we have had activity. You also approved commercial space build-out with Compass, maybe about 2 months ago in the trades garage. So I've added that to the trades district dimension mill garage. I added that 770,000 to that working kind of remaining balance. Not much, not really any activity on the other two projects. They are the Forge, which is very active, but I have not seen any updates that I need to do for RDC yet. And then the Beeline Trail Extension, multi-use path, that's the 17th Street project, which is just about wrapping up. So we'll get with Roy and see if there's any updates for you for that. So fund balances still look really strong for the TIF district, and we need to follow up and get together about fund balances and spending plan for 2025. Any questions?
And per our conversation, you're gonna add the North TIF.
Yes, there is a TIF district. These are all in the consolidated TIF. There is a TIF district called Kinzer, the Kinzer Prow, that is a small district, and that will be added on here too for any projects that are in that.
From a breakout standpoint of each particular TIF that makes up the consolidated TIF, we go through that once a year.
Mhm.
Is that a correct statement in regards from a financial standpoint?
Yes, we go through that breakout once a year, where we look and see what all the different areas are.
Because where the dollars are actually coming from, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
the Kinzer Prow is a very small piece
Oh,
of it,
yes.
but it makes up the entirety. If we were to break out those particular TIFs, where would that put us on the Hopewell? From a downtown TIF, the ones that make up.
Downtown TIF makes over 6 million, and there's a couple others that make around a little over 1 million, and then it's smaller amounts after that, and so I'd have to get to that breakout. But most of our TIF revenue comes from the downtown TIF.
Downtown TIF.
Which is, again, part of the consolidated TIF.
Right. I'm just looking to see exactly which particular parts are bringing in the dollars that are, because, from the looks of things on Hopewell, we've got a significant amount of financial commitments.
Yes, we do have.
And with that, as we start looking at when and what things are going to occur, the dollars where they're coming in that will then start generating back revenue. Because I'm assuming, based on what I'm seeing, our park is going to be done fairly soon. We're still, okay. So.
I've got a follow-up to Randy's question. So that breakdown that we do annually, is that often enough, or should we be doing it at least semi-annually?
The revenues are only gonna change annually, so I think annually on the breakdown in the revenues is enough. Definitely needs to be annually because it's based on the once a year assessed value. So what are you thinking?
Well, I agree with that.
Okay, yeah.
I agree the income side doesn't change, but the expense side changes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know, do we want to find out at the end of the year that we should have made some adjustment halfway through the year?
I hear what you're saying. So you're asking about kind of a report that, okay, revenue is going to be static. That's easy. Revenue is the easy part.
Right.
It's the expenses that we really should. Yes, and this is one way to kind of track our expenses, but how do we see it all together versus all the TIF revenues? Yes, I agree.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Thought.
It sticks. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Throw it out there, and yes, I would say that would be a great thing.
That works.
We'll work on that.
Collections coming in on the TIF basis is with the tax dollars that come in twice a year?
Yes.
Okay, so the revenues are actually coming in twice. The basis of assessment of what we have is once a year. Then we can break that.
But we
out.
know what that's going to be.
And we know what that's going to be. So how the question I have in regards to it is the budgetary requirement that it appears we're going to have to do. As we do the budgetary aspect, how are we looking to do that? And I'll paraphrase as best I can with Isaac of how we do that budgeting in regards to we do zero-sum budget or income-based budgeting. Ours?
Well, I will give you guys as much of an update as I have, and that is virtually nothing. The update from the Department of Local Government Finance was, here's the link on where you can submit your spending plan, and that's all the information. So it is up to us. So the city has to submit spending plans for a few other things, like the food and beverage tax fund, and it is simple as just a list of projects you will or could spend money on. It's really best to leave it sometimes it's best to leave it broad. you don't know what's gonna come up. So I would definitely recommend that we make a list of everything we know we're gonna spend on, and then we add things that you decide as a group that you may, if the request came to you, would be willing to consider. And with that, we'll provide as much financial information as far as cash flow as we possibly can, so that
'Cause
you
part-
feel comfortable.
Part of this will come into the cash flow basis based on any bonds or that have been.
Right, yeah.
And we are going to work with a consultant and do
Okay.
a little bit of a retreat that he'll do an analysis of our spending plan and make some recommendations and also educate us on what the actual requirements are. So that's coming soon. We're trying to find a date that everybody can be present for.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking, since DLGF has not given us specific information, it's left up to us, and I know given everything that you've just had thrown upon you from a, administration standpoint, trying to make sure how we can best assist in regards to making it smooth. Hearing we have a consultant helping gives me a little more pause. And then, do we have a definitive time frame? Because I'd hate for us to get caught in the same situation we did based upon the trades district and what had to happen, where, fortunately, we were able to pull that off. But do we have a definitive time frame, or is it just get
For
it done
when
before?
we're planning on meeting with our consultant or when we're gonna have to pass this?
When the requirement to have the budget done and submitted is?
I believe it's December.
December 1st.
Yeah.
December
So we will
1st.
do it we'll do it in November.
Okay, after we get through city budget.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, December 1st.
Yeah, so we are working on the back end to try to get as much information ready for that for you, so you can have productive discussion and not have to come back, ask, so we don't have to come back with as much information. We're trying to get as much ready as we can.
And you've already identified the consultant.
Yes, and we've worked with them previously as well. I had a conversation, or the three of us actually had a conversation with the consultant, and it was very helpful, and they were able to paint the detail that we need to look at. So right now, it's just updating the numbers, but they had a lot more information that I hesitate to provide to you right now because I may get it wrong. It's better to come from him.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Additional questions for Jessica? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Moving into business development updates, Jane?
Hi, everyone. I have a few trades district updates to share with you today, passing these along from John Fernandez. Of course, we had a wonderful celebration last week announcing the Lilly Endowment's $16 million support of the College and Community Collaboration Grant, which is focused on accelerating development of the trades district. It's a three-way partnership between IU, the mill, and the city, and we will see the purchase of some RDC property with that grant in order that the trades district may accelerate development, and it will develop according to the rules that are in place. Another component is sector development, so really a lot of talent being leveraged from IU in support of development of the tech sector and specifically commercialization activities. That's super exciting. And then, the commissioning of 6 public art pieces. And then the city's piece, which is about $5 million, will be in support of development of gateways and building out the public infrastructure. Kind of gives us an opportunity to revisit what's happening in the connecting points around the trades district, and helps us make sure, or will give us the opportunity to make sure that we're really inviting the community in, and we have invitations extended through our built environment to campus to come into the trades district and connect there. So huge opportunity, really exciting, and I'm sure we will be reporting more on the rollout of that grant. John's other updates were just, Jessica had mentioned Compass, and that build out is going forward in the trades district. He says that the schedule is tight, but we're on target for completion in December. He is working on we are working on the definitive hotel project agreement, and we'll have that ready for RDC consideration in 2 weeks. And then he reports that the Forge pipeline is solid. 2 verbal commitments are secured, and then he had a 3rd site visit today that went very well. So I expect we'll see him with updates on that soon. Any questions?
No, but part of that will be the repurchase of some of the property that comes in. Will go into the separate entity, and then that dollars will come back into the TIFs. Is that-
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So that gives us the ability to have
It's not just some of the property, it's all the trades district.
Everything.
Remaining parcels,
Okay,
yeah.
and then,
Yep.
that's good, thank you, appreciate it.
Great. I don't see any additional questions. So with that, let's move on to our Hopewell update. Deb?
Yeah, just a super quick update. We have several items for resolutions tonight, so we'll give most of our time there. We've been talking about the Hopewell South public offering, and that will come to you in 2 weeks at the 16th meeting. So thanks to the hard work of Jane and Larry and others on the team, including the good work of you three. I believe we're going to invite you three to be part of the meeting on the 16th via Zoom, so they can help do the presentation as we ask for approval to move forward. So that is my quick update, and I'll defer the rest of my time to the items that are coming regarding Hopewell.
Right.
I
Any
got a question for Deb. Hey, Deb,
Mhm.
are we gonna be expected to review that offering doc and vote on it in the same meeting?
I think the plan is right now to get it to you about a week in advance of the 16th, so that you should have plenty of time to review it before the 16th is the plan.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. So it's gonna come to us in 2 weeks. We'll have it a week, in 1 week
Correct.
today.
Yeah, just for clarity, it'll come for approval in 2 weeks, but the plan is to have it to you to give you a full week to
Doesn't
review
give me
it.
a chance to ask questions though.
Well,
That's the problem.
there's the question. Are we able to ask individual questions to you as our project manager, Deb, in regards to that timeframe?
You can send them to us and that's
Yeah,
perfectly
let's
acceptable.
say,
Okay, perfectly acceptable and legal, so we're good.
yeah, send it through
Just
normal
don't-
channels.
The only thing you can't do is send a group email to all commissioners, so you would just need to send an individual email to staff.
Okay.
So that we can circulate.
Okay. Look forward to seeing it.
Mhm.
Anything else for Deb?
No, I hit Larry up. What's our time frame? Well, Deb and Larry combined, as we go through that, and in 2 weeks it comes out, we take a look. What is our time frame that we need to deal with on a legal basis before we can consider any offers that would not be below? Because we've got the appraised value. So if the offers are above the appraised value, we have the discussion of which one's gonna be best. If for whatever reason they're below the appraised, what's our time frame before we can actually?
It would be, you can't negotiate for anything below the average of the two appraisals for 30 days after the notice of offering closes.
Okay.
So once you receive those, you have 30 days after that. I think that's what we're going to stick to for this particular offer.
That's fine. What I'm trying to identify from a time frame standpoint, since, there's been ongoing discussions and such, when we would actually get to something, which realistically, with this being September, October, November, before anything, it'd be next spring before we actually would see anything occur, if the world goes great. Is that, you've done this.
I think that's fair. Responses are due November 1st. So, there'll be obviously, reviews of those, but realistically, I think it's probably a fair assumption, the earliest.
Okay. That works. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else for Deb? Okay, thank you so much, Deb, much appreciated.
One last question.
Let's-
Sorry, Sue. Hit me up. Brynshore, are we moving forward on that? I don't know if Deb needs to be involved.
On the
So-
core property.
On the core property.
We are moving forward. We are waiting to hear back from IDEM on the contamination plan, and once that's approved, then there will be a public notice period, and then we're hoping for a closing in October.
Okay, because that's got a window of time that we need to deal with.
We're aware.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, it's by the end of the year
Mhm.
Okay,
is
so-
kind of when
Yeah.
you need to see some movement on it. But we're trying to keep everybody apprised, and they understand that we're at the mercy of state agencies, so it's not always up to us at this point.
Right.
Yeah, we're just in the sequence.
We're
trying to keep it
following
moving.
the
Okay.
proper protocols and checking the boxes and making sure that we're compliant. So again, outside of our control.
Yeah. And if it doesn't come closer, then we'll deal with whatever circumstances need to be dealt with.
I feel strongly that we'll close in October.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's move on to new business. We have 3 resolutions before us tonight, beginning with Resolution 2462, approval of amendment of agreement for security patrols on Hopewell properties. Who do we have speaking to us on this issue?
Do we just start? And then
Yeah,
fill
you're
in?
more than.
So this is the a resolution to extend the term for the security patrols for Hopewell. So we've been using MSI or Marshall Security for some time. As you know, we have experimented with various times and coverages over the course of the last year. There is a further modification that we think is wise to do at this point, which is to say that we, as you'll recall, through the winter of last year, we had 24-hour patrols because of increased activity. We've dialed that back to 12-hour patrols. The change for this one is to stagger the times of when those 12-hour patrols happen, and that's just to create some variability in when security is there so that people don't get used to their schedule and that we make sure that we're keeping the site as secure as possible. Because of the demolition, as we all noted, it is a reduced footprint of what will be covered and what needs to be monitored. So right now, basically, we have 3 essential buildings on the site that would need them to be covered, and it doesn't take anything more or less for MSI to cover these buildings. It's just so you're aware, 714 South Rogers, which we've done some work on to secure the first 2 floors to make access to that building much more difficult. And as far as we know, I don't believe we've had any more intrusions into that building since then.
Into 714?
Into
No,
714.
we have not.
So then you also have the core building, which we're talking about getting under construction in this fall. So that's ideal. We want activity on that site as quickly as possible. And then finally would be potentially the parking garage, which we'll talk about a little bit later as we're modifying some of the fencing in the site. We just want to make sure that they have eyes on that building as well to keep this. From the previous extension of time, there is money left over on this purchase order. So this is not new funding for this contract at this time. What we're proposing is that we just extend the term. If we get close to using up the remainder of that money, it is possible we'd come back to you just to say, it looks like we're going to have this much projected for this amount of time. For the security patrols. But for right now, in terms of what this is, we want to use up the funding that has already been approved, and with the new staggered schedule of 12 hours each, not every day. So.
And also extending the period of time. Our current extension went through the beginning of September, or the last day of August. And so I don't think that we're at a place right now in our community that we can stop.
Question.
Question. Question.
The do not exceed number, the 269,657, that's in the original?
That's what the last amendment, that was the total amount from the last amendment.
Okay, so you're
It's
just
here
replicating the
because
same number.
Because that funding terminated at the same time of the term of the agreement, so we're just extending that approval.
Well, that makes sense.
But it's not an additional 269.
They had given us an incorrect quote that we had used at the last RDC meeting. So when we moved it from 24 hours to 12 hours, they kept the 24-hour price. And they realized it when they went to bill us. So they were honest about it, but that's why that there's additional funding left.
That's a good thing to have a security company.
Thank you.
Honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that, from a security standpoint, where are we at based upon when the new thoroughfare of the Greenway will be complete? And how is this going to fall into the security of that? Because my understanding that's going to be done.
You're talking about Hopewell East?
Hopewell East.
Yes. So my understanding is that will be activated sometime this fall. Parks has a contract with MSI as well. MSI has indicated that they will not be charging us for both sites. It's close enough in proximity that they can cover both.
Yeah, so, go ahead, Larry.
The thing I was gonna add is, so even if, as we're wrapping up some of the main construction on the infrastructure at the end of this year, there's gonna be still work to do on that site. We are looking at active ways of engaging that portion of it as well. So the park and bringing people to it on a regular basis as a way of kind of reducing the need for security all the time. Of course, there are security measures that it would take to keep everybody safe, just like we would at any other park and facility, but in this case, we do want to bring people from the neighborhood there to activate that park, to have people there. So that's something we're kind of targeting for next year and making sure that people are actually using that site and reducing the need for it just to be pure security.
Well, we're gonna have, my understanding is based on our timeframes, that park area will, or greenway will be opened up sometime at the end of this year. And then based on what I'm understanding from our time frame of actually getting an RFP in, there's a window of time that the greenway could be utilized. Now, we want everybody from the neighborhood and such to use it, but you know, some parks in this community are getting used not just by everybody, and we want activity, and we also are gonna have construction in those particular areas once this comes in. So from an area of either fencing or security and safety, because when I see the construction areas on Hopewell East, that's outside the greenway. Well, is our plan, Deb, you may have to answer that or help on this, is that plan to be fenced off that we're gonna have to take into consideration and opened, or is it just going to be in this area? I'm just trying to make sure as we look through security that we're securing the entire area for the safety of the community. And if we have identified a plan, or if it's something we're going to be looking at on a month-by-month time frame as these come together. Because it seems like we got some differentiating time frames where we'll have items open to the public, but we'll still be looking at the private development at the same time.
Yeah, Larry, do you want to speak to parks, or would you like me to share a little bit what I've heard from Tim about that?
Feel free, I think that's fine.
Okay, yeah, so there are active conversations going on by parks about, you know, what is the activation timeline as construction completes, and is there initial fencing that's required before activation is ready to go, recognizing that development is not coming as fast as what was once envisioned. And so I would say the solution specific to Hopewell East and the completion of the Greenway Park area and what's going to happen when construction is done, a lot of options are being considered right now, but there have not been any definitive plans. But I'm confident you should feel confident that lots of those conversations are going right now, so that as the project finishes later this year, there's definitely attention toward that.
What I'm trying to get to is the dollar amount that we're approving. How much additional dollars do we think it'll come, whether it comes from parks or whether it comes from the RDC? You know, we don't know at this present moment. It'll be something that'll be coming up, but we're approving our maximum amount on security at the present moment. Or that's what we're being asked to consider.
What you're
We've already approved
approving.
it.
Yeah, well, we approved it already. It's just an
You're
addendum.
Yeah, the addendum is gonna extend the time period through March
Mhm.
of 2025. At this time, it's keeping the dollar amount that you already approved in place, and it's just staggering the times.
The times.
So for
So-
additional funding, we'll come back to the RDC if and when we need it.
But at this point, we got till March 1st of 2025 for security.
Yeah, and
Whether it be.
Part of the problem is that we haven't been billed for all of the time that so it's a reconciliation issue at this point. We don't want to put a number out there until we've seen exactly the bills
And
coming.
as these plans get firmed up, we'll be okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Additional questions on 2462?
I have a question about security.
There's a time, are we to public comment? The public can give comment, cannot ask questions necessarily, but can offer comment on the resolution. If the commissioners are done with their questions, we're happy to have public comment, Sue.
Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't see whose voice that was, so.
Yeah.
If you'd like to come up to the
Just
microphone.
identify yourself and feel free to give your comment.
I'm Stuart Norton. I'm a resident of West Wiley Street. The emergency room from the hospital is right across the parking lot from where I live. And so there was, pretty good security from the hospital there over the years. And while the hospital was providing, or when the city was providing 24-hour security, whatever, that's gone. And there's a residence home there that is a part of Centerstone, 714 South Fairview. And there is a lot of drug activity around that building. And in back of the building, in the past, 4 or 5 days, it's been nothing but a shooting gallery back there. There's people pulling in there, throwing garbage and syringes around. And this is, this used to be hospital property, now it's city property. And so I was hoping that there would be some sort of security patrol or something to ensure that these parking areas don't just turn into a drug fest.
Appreciate it, Stuart.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Is there additional public comment? I'm not seeing any in the room, so let's come back to commissioners. I think we've had opportunities to, but are there any remaining questions before we move to a vote?
I'll go ahead and move approval of resolution 2462.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's move forward with a roll call vote. John, can you begin?
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Lori McRobbie, yes.
Sue Scambaluri, yes. Thank you, everyone. And that passes unanimously. Let's move to resolution 2463, approval of a contract with Belcher Fencing LLC to modify fencing in Hopewell. Who will be speaking to this for us?
I'm happy to start off, since that seems like a fun idea. To modify the fencing in Hopewell, so we kind of alluded to this a little bit. So whenever the initial purchase agreement with IU Health was had on Hopewell West, where IU Health was doing their main demolition, they erected basically a construction fence around the entire site. At this point, once we closed on that property, they conveyed that construction fence as it was to the city of Bloomington, so we took that over. We anticipate, because of the upcoming activity on the core site, also next year on Jackson Street and things like that, we do need to alter what is fenced on Hopewell West and have a more targeted fencing. So this contract with Belcher Fencing is to relocate the fence. Currently, it's around the entire perimeter of Hopewell West. This would basically break it into two perimeters, one around the core site itself, so the site that we have selected to be conveyed to BHA through their development agreement with Brinshore, BHA being the Bloomington Housing Authority, excuse me, I'm sorry to use acronyms, the Bloomington Housing Authority for the affordable housing development at the core building, and then also to surround the parking garage with fencing to keep that secure as well. It would leave some of the site open, obviously, the parts where the demolition has been completed on that, and there's largely open grass areas. The total for this one is $14,723.50, and we would anticipate this being completed fairly quickly in the next month or two. Anything to add? I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Questions from the commissioners?
I've got a question. Now I can't find it. Did I read this, that the completion was to be by the end of 2025?
No, not for this. That may be the next resolution that you read, and we can discuss that in particular. For the fencing, this should be the end of 2024, and that's really just for the reason why we have terminating December 1st, 2024 in the resolution, just to give time for not just the completion of the work, but also the billing cycle to go through for this to be made.
Well, that made sense. I don't know where I saw that.
John, did you have a follow-up question?
No, I can't read, obviously.
Okay.
Okay.
So, any additional questions from commissioners?
Yes. So when we look at this and we're breaking this out based on, I haven't seen a map, but we're going to encircle the parking garage with a fence. We're going to encircle the core building with a fence. We're going to leave the area for Jackson Street open, and then we're going to leave this grass area in an open area as opposed to having any fence around it. Given the fencing and where we're taking things out, who's gonna maintain the grass area? And then what's the controls that'll have to be put on that so that we don't end up having additional issues that occur by, people coming in there and the liability. I know it all falls to the city, but so that it sounds like we're looking for fencing the construction areas and leaving the open area, but there'll be maintenance that'll have to be done.
We're doing the maintenance now.
Right, well, we're not mowing it.
We are,
Okay.
and actually, I believe that the mowing crews are having difficulty with the fence.
Right.
It's costing them more to go around and do the weed whacking and stuff, the trimming around, so.
So essentially, until such time as we get the Hopewell West RFPs out, things back, this will essentially be another green area that will be able to be utilized, or what's our
No.
security accordingly?
Not exactly. I mean, remember that the anticipated closing date on the core administration building being in October, the construction would likely have to begin on that late this year, so you would have an active construction site there. Jackson Street, the construction of Jackson Street, which the RDC received a READY grant from the state through Regional Opportunities Initiative regionally here. That would be slated to begin next year, so that would be a separate site kind of on that frontage. So it's not that it would be a wide open green space, there would be different construction going on, and I don't know, I don't have a great answer for you in terms of what the Jackson Street construction would look like in terms of how we would, that may involve, again, a re-fencing of a different
Right.
area.
Maybe a staging area.
And probably a staging and a laydown area, exactly, that we would have to adjust this plan on the fly, but because that's not starting till next year, we do just want to free up that space, kind of have some controlled areas that also give our staff kind of some flexibility in maintaining what's there currently so that we don't have a lot of destruction.
Yeah, and as the fence opens up in such, and we've got security accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, my concern is just the ability that's going to happen where people are just going to camp out there and such. And since it is on RDC, how we mitigate that circumstance, either through security, through fencing, or what we have to do. Because, the greenway is gonna look great in this open area, but we've got an active construction that we're trying to get this back on the rolls.
Yeah, and that is what we were talking about with the security patrols and altering where the patrols are and how they operate. So currently, they largely stay between the core building and 714 South Rogers Street, so along that First Street area there. With this change, that would necessitate a different type of patrolling to monitor different areas, which they do without additional charge. That's part of the service, but it would require a different type of patrol around that area, for sure.
But like the resident indicated, some of those areas that we now own are being utilized in other areas that we may not be able to have control over at the present moment, because the particular, we don't own that, it's just right behind it that, the RDC
Right.
does own. So I just want to make sure we're being responsible to the neighborhood and the citizens.
Yeah, and that's something we're well aware of. We're also trying to find the best, most workable approaches to make sure that we don't have that kind of activity that overruns the areas or creates waste of RDC property. It is something we pay attention to, and just frankly, I think that it requires us to be a little nimble and a little bit more dynamic in our approach. It would be nice if we had a one-size-fits-all approach, but in balancing the interest of getting construction going there and having a safe, secure operation, but also, making sure that we're keeping the area clear and usable for neighbors as well, is a concern of ours. And so it is something we will have to monitor, frankly, and just react to.
And then anything we do from a neighborhood standpoint, as far as that, as long as they let us know ahead of time, then we can adjust to it. Just, they get hold of hand department if they have an issue? Is that the most effective way?
Mhm.
Okay, because as we fence these off and open these areas up, we got to take care of the general public. We have to do it in this very safe manner, so. Okay, I'm done.
It's well taken.
Thank you. Additional questions on 2463? Seeing none, let's go to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to offer comment on this resolution? I'm not seeing anyone come forward. If I've missed something, let me know. Okay. So let's come back to commissioners. Any final questions, or if not, is there a motion on resolution 2463?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that resolution 2463 pass. Let's begin with a roll call vote. John, could you start us?
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Lori McRobbie, yes.
Steve Scamboluri, yes. That passes 4-0. Thank you, everyone. And let's move to item C, resolution 2464, approval of a contract with Woods Electrical Contractors, Inc. for electrical maintenance and connection services in Hopewell. Who will be speaking to this for us?
I will, Larry Allen. First, just to begin, there was a typo in this resolution that was pointed out to us before the meeting began. In the fifth whereas clause, there is a reference in the second sentence to Belcher Fencing. You all have received a modified resolution that corrects that typo so that it says Woods Electrical, just so you're aware. This is for an agreement with Woods Electrical to provide basically two essential services. One is to reconnect 714 South Rogers Street to electricity so that we can, again, in furtherance of preserving that building for reuse and in anticipation of potential reuse, so that we can have some sort of basically conditioning of that space to keep it clear and free of moisture, and to make sure that we're preserving the space for reuse as best as we can. And electricity is going to be a key part of that now that most of the demolition is done all around it. The second one is also to provide kind of an open services agreement at the request of our Public Works Department. We anticipate that there could be additional electrical maintenance items that take place around the Hopewell neighborhood and around RDC properties in particular. Not limited to, we're not sure yet what those will look like, just frankly. So this allows us to kind of call in this organization as those things may arise. And of course, the RDC would need to be kept apprised of that. Staff would have to okay it still under the agreement. But things like if we wanted to hook up particular security cameras and run electricity for that, or lights, things like that, those kind of things that we've been exploring as part of the enhanced security measures around this site. We want to be able to have a group that's on call relatively quickly that could do this service. And so that's why you see kind of a more flat, not to exceed amount on this, the $15,000. That's the maximum amount that we could possibly charge under this contract. And the expiration of date of this would go through the end of 2025. So over the next years, we have maintenance needs. However, the reconnecting of the electricity to 714 South Rogers would happen immediately. So that's a service. And the cost for that service out of this $15,000 is just under $5,000. I think it's $4,700.
Thank you, Larry. Question?
Yeah, I have just a comment that on page 2 of Exhibit A still refers to Belcher Fencing.
Yeah, that also needs to be corrected, obviously. So thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, yeah, I see on the title, yeah.
And I am so sorry, I have to leave to get to the consolidated plan outreach meeting starting in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
So I would just urge,
And you got to drive quick.
if Commissioner wants to move for approval of this resolution at the end of our discussion, just make sure to make the note that we do it with a modified Exhibit A is to correct it.
Two quick questions. One, who's paying for the electricity out of what fund? Because it's going to be an added expense that I don't think we have in here.
Yeah. That would be out of the 444 account for the electricity bills itself, which is what we pay for all utilities out of for our site.
Okay.
And you'll also know, I'll just make a quick note out of this as well. So The other ones, the other resolutions you've seen this evening are coming out of the TIF account because they are clearly part of the redevelopment project. Out of an abundance of caution here, this is out of the 444 account because we have this as an ongoing services agreement, and it may include pure maintenance and not necessarily something going towards the redevelopment of the site. I wanted to make sure that we weren't mixing the consolidated TIF and the 444 account, so that's why this resolution you'll see is taken out of that 444 account, which is your general services account that's not restricted.
That makes sense.
Appreciate that. With this, is there any Duke charges, or are we?
I think this covers the charges. I think we've already established what the Duke charges were for reconnection, but I can check on that to make sure.
I just want to verify that
That
we're
come out
not
of the
getting.
5,000, you think?
I think it does, but maybe Deb can add some detail to that.
Well, the one question I have, go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, I do not know that with certainty.
So
I just want to make sure that if we're doing it, that we're not coming back on something that says, here's additional that's going to come, because we disconnected it,
Yeah.
which, you know, my understanding from previous meetings that everything was cut and could never be reconnected, but now that it is, it's a safety issue, so I just want to make sure that all costs are covered in this so we can move forward.
Well, it doesn't say we're paying Duke out of it, so if there's a separate Duke charge, it's not covered by this resolution.
it would
If
have to
it's-
come through the contract with
If it-
Belcher, so yeah.
If it's a
But
reimbursement to the electrician, that's one thing.
But I can inquire and get that information.
I just want to make sure if we're approving this for that safety-wise, we can able to have power so they can have lights and secure the neighborhood. And if it's there, we can move forward on this and it doesn't have to come back at a future time.
What I do know is that the Duke service obviously has to be a piece of this. And I do know that JD walked them through the building to analyze everything, so I'm confident that happened as well. So I think that's about as much assurance as I would have that things are covered, but we do know that, when Duke went out there they cut the line, they cut the whole service out, they didn't make it easy to reconnect, but I do know JD was out there with the company, so.
Okay.
And I will just point out that when Duke did cut the services building, that was at a time when it was not believed that this building would be reused necessarily. So that has been a conversation and a decision that has evolved since that time.
Yeah, we recognize that.
Yeah, we recognize that things have changed with that, and as we put this with the 269 unsecure, we spent a lot of money on this, and I just want to be very cautious as we continue to change, as things change, that we're making sure we do the best fiscal management that we have. And I know you guys are doing everything you can. Given the concern, you just have to bring it up. So appreciate it with that.
You gonna?
Thank you.
I'll make a.
Additional,
Anything else? No.
okay, if not, let's go to the public. Are there any members of the public who wish to offer comment on 2464?
I think the public's vacated, so you don't have to ask.
The public is not with us anymore, so.
Dave's not with us.
Well,
In
that's
that
true.
case-
I never think of me.
In that case, I'll come back to commissioners. Is there a motion? I think, John, I heard you start to offer a motion.
No, I think I was offering Randy to offer.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay.
And who is my second?
John.
Great, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Let's move to a roll call vote. John, can you begin for us?
John West, yes.
Randy Cassidy, yes.
Lori McRobbie, yes.
And C. Scamballeri, yes. That passes 4-0. Thank you, everyone. So that takes us to additional business or general discussion. I'm not aware of any, but Larry, do we have anything else you need us to cover this evening?
The only thing I would just mention is we mentioned a retreat earlier in the meeting. I believe we'll be sending out, if we haven't already, I don't know. We'll be sending out a message to you all just to kind of gauge what your availability is going to be in a window of time so that we can kind of settle on some dates. I think we had proposed a date, but that did not work for enough commissioners to make that work, so we'll keep trying. So look for that just in your emails, and hopefully we can get that scheduled. I think that would be really beneficial, obviously, for a variety of reasons.
Wonderful.
Larry, what is the general window in which you're trying to get that scheduled? By the end of October, by the end of September, by the end of?
Yeah, ideally, we were looking at maybe early October. I mean, the original date that we had hoped for was the end of September, just because there was kind of a Monday there that kind of fit. But sometime in the first half of October would be ideal, but sometime in the month of October would be the best.
Got it. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Move for
If not, we
adjournment.
have motion. I'm sorry.
I move
I'm
for
sorry, what's that?
adjournment.
I'll take that as a motion. I'm sure there's a healthy second, not far behind.
Probably a chorus of seconds.
There you go.